Well, it's another long video for y'all. Excuse the scruffy look. I wanted to open with something a little cleaner. Let's see, I got a list here. A couple things I just wanted to mention, preface. Talk about manifestation a little bit. And I don't think I go over this, but whatever you call upon outside of just working to get your resources and then buying it in a mundane way. If you're trying to manifest physical things, riches, desired items, just be careful because you don't necessarily know the cost. Okay? Better to just, work, make money, and buy it. But you can manifest things. Just be careful what you ask for and the way that you ask for it. Also, bullying. It's so rampant. I talk a little bit about cancel culture and bullying. And we've gotten to a point where, that universal truth that was expressed through many, many stories, many movies, right? What happens with the bully? There's usually a lesson about a person growing up, standing up, getting courage, and knocking that bully ass out, right? Knocking them down if they push you around. Now, physical bullies are very much frowned upon, pounced upon, if anyone gets physically aggressive. But there's many people, passive-aggressive, cowardly bullies, that will bully secretly, quietly, subversively. Now, these bullies should be dealt with. If they're pushing you around, knock those suckers down, And that's social law. So, if someone's messing with you, making fun of you, or ignoring you, just being shitty to you for no good reason, right? You don't deserve it. You haven't done anything to them. They saw something about you online, let's say, or maybe they heard something in the neighborhood or saw you do something that they didn't understand and they judged you. Now, if they're mistreating you, they deserve to be uncomfortable. Bullies shouldn't feel comfortable doing that kind of thing. So whether it's you or someone else or situation or maybe even eventually, some bullshit lies and manipulation that was used to bully you comes out and makes them feel uncomfortable, that's what they deserve. That's called justice, all right? Even if you go over and you look them in the face and make them uncomfortable, that's also justice. This is social law. And we've lost it because, people have whole careers basically being manipulative, shitty bullies, just talking trash on other people, trying to tear them down and criticize, and that's all they do. And so it's become normalized, and it's not okay. And people should be uncomfortable doing it. And if you get messed with, if you get bullied by someone, you didn't do anything to them, then maybe that person deserves to be uncomfortable. Maybe you're going to make them uncomfortable. Maybe someone else around you is going to make them uncomfortable. Maybe they'll stop their bullshit, right? Hopefully. This is the lesson in many of those coming-of-age movies where the protagonist gets pushed around by the bully and then eventually maybe meets someone older, maybe comes to a personal epiphany, maybe improves themselves somehow. Boom! Knock that bully down, okay? It's not okay to be a bully, whether you're physically aggressive or assertive, or whether you're passive-aggressive and you do it behind the scenes. Now, being strong, being confident, coming up to people, if they feel uncomfortable, but you haven't actually done anything wrong to them, but just your presence, the way you speak, or your confidence, or your sense of certainty, your lack of fear, if that makes them feel uncomfortable, that's their shit. They got to deal with that. That's not your fault, right? If you haven't done anything wrong to them or put them down or tried to take anything from them. These days, people feel comfortable getting back in underhanded ways. So people shouldn't feel so comfortable with these things. And they should be uncomfortable, so they stop. It's pretty simple. This is old social universal law. Don't mess with people or you're going to get messed with. It's simple. Be careful what you try to manifest, and I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope you watch to the end, okay? So it's been a couple weeks since I guess I started to try to turn things around a little bit in my life and in my relationships. And I ended a very long relationship with the woman that I was dating. I wanted to have kids. I would have maybe gotten married, at some point, but never got to that point. And like I said in a previous video, I had to end things. It was the right time. So it's been a few weeks. Since that happened. A few days after I ended things, she stopped by to pick up some stuff. I stayed quiet. I created some space for her to speak. I was pretty activated. I knew that there was clearly some things that happened that were somewhat dishonest and manipulative that we spoke about, but I had a pretty strong feeling that there were at least a few other things that she didn't speak about, that maybe I had a hunch about or I wondered about. But in that space of silence that I tried to create for her, space for her to fill with some information or truth, when she stopped by to pick up her stuff, she barely said anything. She was very on edge, very understandable. I think it was a pretty big surprise to her when I ended things. But it was time to tell the truth. And I know that there were some things that she should have said, things that I needed to hear, to clear the air, to set things straight, to do the right thing. And I was patient, and I left a lot of space. And eventually, as she was puttering around, somewhat frantically, understandably, but somewhat frantically, puttering around, gathering things, I told her that I was disappointed. I told her that it was her time to speak, that there was things that she should be saying, but she wouldn't. Fear was something that paralyzes many of us, and fear at times paralyzed her. It's very common for human beings. I have found paralysis at times when I've been intimidated, but one of the things that I like to do is break through walls that are put in front of me when I can to overcome bullies and get past fear. So I tried to give her that opportunity to get past her fear and speak some much needed truth, but it didn't happen. She did apologize a number of times. But it was somewhat, it was a strained and frantic apology. Again, understandable in the circumstances, but I think a person doesn't really deserve to receive forgiveness unless they're capable of opening up why they want forgiveness, being honest about what happened, and being honest about the fact that they want forgiveness. But it's hard to forgive someone if you don't even exactly know everything that went down. So she apologized a number of times, and I told her, I said, I think you got caught in some way. I don't know that you're actually sorry. And there's a distinction in meaning that someone it was actually a tarot card video that I was watching a little while ago, probably in the last week. And this person made a distinction between guilt or feeling guilty and remorse, because a person can be guilty or feel guilty, but maybe that's just because they got caught, just because of the repercussions that they might have to face. They don't necessarily feel remorse for what they've done to someone, but they want forgiveness, and it's made worse when they don't even admit what has happened. So I don't know. Like I said in the last video, I don't know. I know a few things that happened that were a bit manipulative and that had a huge impact on my life and that I didn't think was fair, but we spoke about that. I just have a feeling that there's some other things that needed to be said. especially the way that she apologized a number of times. Again, you don't deserve forgiveness if you can't admit to what happened. And now that's a person receiving forgiveness, and whether it should be given to them or not. It's different for you to find that forgiveness, for you to forgive them. Again, not necessarily tell them that, but for you to forgive them. You're letting go of that resentment. You're letting go of that negative energy, that hook in your heart. And it can damage you. It can drag on you. It can poison you if a person is not, if you are not able to find forgiveness at some point when someone has wronged you. But again, it's hard to do that even within yourself if you're not sure exactly what happened. But forgiveness is important. So she gathered up a bunch of stuff and she went off, and I haven't heard from her since. Now, like I said in the last video, I'm not blocking people. Like I haven't blocked any texts or calls, and probably she just hasn't reached out. I'm not sure what she's doing, how she's feeling. Probably not too great from the whole situation. Pain all around on both sides, right? When something significant ends, at least I thought it was significant. And I don't know. But it's a process. It's a process as we go through those stages of ascending beyond our limitations, ascending beyond those that hold us back or don't believe in us, those that talk down on us, whether it's to our face or behind our back. But many of us have opportunities to ascend all of this negativity and improve, become different, become new. Step into a new timeline, a new reality. This is very possible. This is part of what I've been talking about as far as spiritual awakening. The world is going through a spiritual awakening, and we each, if we want to face it and embrace it, are also going through some version of a spiritual awakening. Change is hard, right? Change is hard. It requires sacrifice and determination and effort and looking at your shit, right? A lot of us can't look at our shit. It's enculturated to get over it, get on, get around it, rather than actually look at the shit and deal with it and clean it up. It's enculturated. It's easier to try to go around the shit that you've created rather than clean it up. And we live in a culture of forced, encouraged, coerced ease at every turn. It's making people's hearts weak. They're not able to face their shit. So, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know how she's doing. I hope she's getting through. If you're watching this, I'm thinking about you now and again. It's obviously a process we're both going through. It's a process I've continued. I had to let someone else go. Someone I love very, very much. I've known them for a really, really long time. And I know them well. And, a few years ago, I guess last year, beginning, when my father passed away, I had to take a break from a lot of things. And so this is one relationship with this second person that I've had to kind of at least move away from, at least for now. I had put most of the effort into actually, to some degree making the connections and definitely completing the connections in terms of actually getting together, making plans, being social, this kind of stuff. It was mostly on my back, mostly up to me if I wanted that kind of, significant, realistic relationship where you actually spend time with someone. And so I had to move away from that. Part of it was I just built up so much resentment because of how unbalanced the relationship was. It didn't seem healthy. I mean, for me, but for them too. Because, I wasn't able to be there for them the way that they needed. And so I moved away. And I stopped trying. I stopped giving as much. I stopped reaching out. And my hope was, it wasn't a test. It was more just more what I needed to do. It was a bit of survival, basically, at that stage. After that big loss, I really needed to recuperate and examine myself, look at my shit. And there was too much resentment in this other relationship, so I backed off a little bit, and very little happened. I didn't hear from this person that much, other than sort of some practical issues. But in terms of wondering how the other person is doing, or getting together, or making plans, or connecting in that kind of significant way beyond just getting tasks done or something that have to be done, very little happened. And it revealed that the relationship was as I saw it. And that was the other thing. I wanted to back off to see if maybe I was exaggerating or catastrophizing, like this person liked to say. And, it was a quiet catastrophe. I wasn't exaggerating. I barely heard from this person. I barely saw them and other people that I care about that they're connected to. And it hurt for a little while, but I tried to let it go. I maybe even figured that this person would come around at some point and recognize, hey, wait, I haven't connected with or heard from or spoken to this person or seen them in a while. Maybe I should do some work. Maybe I should actually reach out and make some plans. But it didn't happen very much. And then a few events passed in the last few weeks, and I didn't reach out. And so they reached out and said, what's going on? Came over. And this is a man, so man to man, like, I'm not a violent person. Unless I have to defend myself physically or someone else I care about, violence is never the answer. I mean, there's a few things you could say that really piss me off. It might make me want to punch you in the face, but it's a mistake. It's not the way to solve things, right? Consensual violence, like sparring and this kind of thing, is totally different. But violence is not the answer. That's not how I operate. I can yell. I can get very angry. When I was younger, I punched a few holes in the wall. That's a long time ago, but violence is a hard line, as it should be. So, if someone's yelling at you, there's an instinctual reaction that they might hurt you physically, right? This goes way, way back to caves and animals and danger around every corner and no sense of emotional control, because every moment is survival, right? Someone raises their voice and gets very intense, violence might follow. I'm not like that. I've never been like that. So anybody that knows me might not like if I get angry sometimes. And again, in closed doors, like in my home or someone else's home, I will get intense. But it's never going to escalate to a point where you have to worry about your physical safety. So it's just a loud noise. I mean, that's all it is. Men get a lot of shit, a lot of unnecessary hate, just because they get intense and they raise their voice. It's not okay. It's a very natural way for men to express themselves if they feel like they're attacked or they're not being listened to or anything like that. And no one likes to be yelled at. And it's good to try to keep an even keel and be balanced and speak without raising your voice. That's good. But, sometimes you got to get into it. Sometimes you got to get into it. And I got into it with this man that I care very much about. It was 4 or 5 hours. Like, holy shit. I kept looking at the clock. I couldn't believe the hours were passing as they were. But we just went over and over and round in circles, and I just kept trying to get this person to see how much I had given them, or tried to, actually offered. Like, maybe they didn't always, I don't know, like the plans that I made or the way that I was when I was there, I suppose, at times. Or maybe they were stuck on old interactions that we had and were expecting that, even if I didn't do anything like that. But at least I made it happen. At least I was there periodically. It was do, not speak, right? There's a huge disconnect with a lot of people between their words and their actions. And this is part of kind of moving away or clearing people out, is when you try to get your words and your actions closer, if not in the same place, so that you can move forward with confidence and create powerful things in your life and for others. You recognize that these tendencies that many human beings have to say one thing and do something different, and then in the middle all they do is say, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying, oh, I'm trying, don't you see how much I'm trying? But you're not doing shit, right? You're not actually completing anything. However hard you're trying, at a certain point, if your trying doesn't accomplish anything, you got to do it differently. You got to step it up. You got to change your approach. I've learned this, right, from a lot of trial and error. Holy shit, I've learned it from a lot of trial and error, but it's something I know. And it's something I've been trying to communicate to a few people in my life. And this person couldn't get it. There was a lot of, well, maybe they would call them reasons, but you know, when reasons stack up enough, they become excuses, no matter how reasonable they sound, right? And very little understanding and culpability. Appreciation for the clear imbalance that was there, however much you might see that as an imbalance is an imbalance. Very little appreciation for what was offered, and a lot of maneuvering to try to hold position and not actually admit that, like, they kind of dropped the ball, they didn't show up, they didn't provide support, or you know, a place to come, or a deep connection of love to expect. That just, it just didn't happen when I backed off. And I tried not to dwell on it at the time, you know, last year and into this year too much, as I watched the months tick by and very little happened. But, you know, I backed off in the last few weeks very clearly, missed a few sort of significant holidays or events or whatever, and so this person wanted to talk. And we talked and we yelled and we, I mean, not getting each other's face, but we got close and we spoke intensely. And they just didn't get it. They just didn't get it. We went round and round in circles. And we looked at what actually happened. Not intentions, not the trying, but what actually happened. You know? The plans that actually came together. Things that actually showed up. Things that were actually said, rather than, I think this happened, or someone else sort of mentioned this, so I think this is how it went. I mean, I went through some text messages to see the interactions, you know, and, you know, what this person was saying didn't match up with the evidence, with what was clearly true in the communications. And even the clear admitted imbalance in the relationship that was admitted wasn't appreciated. The fact that I did give more a number of times was kind of put down. And I guess maybe jealousy is involved. Again, gross competition. Like, I'm very apprehensive about competition. Like, if it's a game, I like to go in. I mean, I like to compete and talk trash sometimes. And winning is, you know, life is not a game. It's not about winning. And you will lose life. You will lose at life if you approach it like it must be won. This is the truth, right? But within life, which is a much bigger, more important activity, within life, games can be an excellent activity. But I don't like it when we play games with each other. I don't like it when people compete with me when I'm just trying to cooperate with them. That is very distasteful for me. And I've had a number of people in my life sort of quietly be jealous or irritated about something that I'm doing when I haven't actually done anything wrong. It's just the way that I do it, and it's not addressed. And often competition comes up. A person becomes competitive. I just find that so distasteful. And I recognize that this was happening in this other relationship. And, you know, said this before, it's sad. It's sad when people do that. So there was a lot of yelling. I got very intense. I got calm. I got intense. I got calm again. And, you know, I mean, they can yell too. That's not always the way they communicate, but I've definitely heard them yell in their own home at their family very intensely. Even more intensely than I yelled in this interaction that we had. But, you know, I did my best, and then I did better than my best. I gave them a big space of time to just say their piece and lay out all of their resentments and all this kind of stuff. And maybe that was a bit of new behavior. But even that wasn't enough. And at the end of it, I had to say, for now, we're going to go our separate ways. It's really tough. Everyone's different. Everyone has different values and places different levels of value on different aspects of their life. But in terms of like relationships, I'm not that extroverted and outgoing, so I don't make a bunch of new friends and relationships very easily. And I've always been very loyal. I've always really valued the relationships that I did have. Never want to burn bridges, right? And I don't think I burnt any bridges. I don't want to burn any bridges. I just want to be able to construct a little bit of extra mechanism on my bridges so they can be lifted and withdrawn or separated at some point if need be, if the connection between lands is not fair and amicable. And so that's what I did. It's really hard. It sucks. It sucked for me. I'm sure it sucked for them. But you got to do it sometimes. It doesn't necessarily mean that something's over forever, but maybe it does. Who knows? You also got to live in the moment. You can't focus on the future endlessly. If you're always living in the future or living in the past, you're going to miss what's right in front of you. And sometimes that's transformation. And, I just can't tell you the amount of improvement and transformation that I've gone through in just 2.5 weeks. I told the woman that I was dating that a number of aspects of our relationship were a huge drain, a huge burden, and that I needed more help from her in a number of ways. And I heard try, I'm trying a lot. And unfortunately, not very much ended up happening. And, I said these things about being drained and the burden with her, but I didn't know for sure. Now I do. Like I said, I've changed more in the last 2 weeks than I have in the last 2 years. Well, that's not true. Losing both your parents will just crack the ground beneath you and make your world change whether you want it to or not, right? That's part of that. One of the later stages of human maturity where you lose your parents, it's going to change you whether you want it to or not. And if you don't let it change you, it's going to fuck you up until you start changing. Yeah, so lots of change. Vast majority, much for the better. Much, much better. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically as well. I feel fit. I have a much better handle on the chronic pain that I struggle with. And I can smile. It's great. For a number of years, because of what I was going through, I couldn't smile, even in the facial cramping and stuff like that. I was just too inundated by the twitching and the cramping and the pain. I mean, even if your face isn't twitching, if you're constantly in physical pain, it's, unless you're like a master actor, it's going to show on your face in some way. So smiling was hard, but I can smile now, and it's a rather pleasant glow, I must say. So getting back to something that I mentioned in a previous video, this is about spell work, dark magic, and all this kind of stuff. And I know that that concept is, any of that kind of far out hokey concept, or it's hokey to some people, is very challenging, especially if you're a very, buttoned down, rational minded person. But it's out there, and it functions in the world, whether you like it or not. You don't have to interact with it for this part of existence to possibly even affect you. So, I've grown up around a lot of ritual, and I've grown up around people that probably did ritual that would be considered kind of spell work or magic or something along those lines. But, it depends how narrowly you want to define these things. You know, I mean, is prayer, just simple prayer, is that magic? It has an effect on the world. You're asking for something, you're engaging in a ritual. I don't think it's magic. I want to create a distinction. Is religious ritual magic? I mean, it's all kind of a form of consciousness and intention affecting the outcome in our reality, I suppose. But I like to strike a distinction between religious ritual and prayer and these kinds of things, and magic with a K, or spell work, or these kinds of things. Now, if things get dark, there's a lot of dark, spellcraft out there that people can draw on. And I think that is one of the distinctions, is that these kinds of rituals, if they do lean towards the darker end of things, it's to get something without giving adequately. It's to take something from someone. It's to manipulate. It's to create falsehoods. It's dark. It's something you wouldn't want done to you, but people do to others, right? It's dark shit. The thing is, even just, aspects of cancel culture. If you're a very sensitive person, even just people going on behind the scenes or talking about you sort of, off to the side or behind your back, you can kind of feel that negative intention. It's like word magic. Someone talks trash on you. Not for a good reason. Probably with a lot of lies or critical exaggerations. But when people go around behind your back and frame you very negatively, especially repeatedly, that's a kind of dark magic in a way, especially these days where that sort of dark magic can be amplified many, many times over through social media, through the internet. And even if you want to take it back and you've done that kind of dark word magic, man, it might be too late. Because you can release a retraction. You can say I was wrong or I lied, but doesn't mean everybody that saw your other bullshit, the original dark word magic, doesn't mean that all of those people are going to see your retraction. Doesn't mean that you're going to change everyone's mind. Sometimes when you say things, it's kind of too late. That's why you should be good to others. That's why you should try to lift others up, empower them. It's very empowering to yourself when you help others. When you empower them, it gives you a boost. It's not why you do it, but it's a nice bonus, and it's clean. It doesn't have the baggage and the demons that come back for you that legit dark spell work does, and as well as just nasty word magic, right? A lot of this cancel culture stuff, a lot of this negativity, which is, again, very profitable and can give you all sorts of clout on the internet, it will come back to bite your ass. Come back to bite your ass and take one of them cheeks with it. You know what I mean? Better watch it. Matter of time. Karma comes for us all, So I don't do magic. I mean, I manifest, I suppose, but even that word, that the secret. I never read the book, but I tried to watch the movie, and it just seemed like a bit of an infomercial to me. I mean, if you use that book or that understanding of manifestation, all the power to you. That was just how I received the video expression of what the book was trying to tell people. I had trouble getting through it. But, I use visualization. I use intention and, prayer. I say prayer. I mean, unless you think that prayer has to be asking some sort of higher power or deity or something like that for your desires. But I think it doesn't have to be that. I think it's about deeply connecting with yourself, showing gratitude, sort of being humble with your request, and not knowing the outcome. Anyways, I use prayer and visualization a lot. I used it a lot while both of my parents were sick, especially my dad when he was in the hospital during COVID. I used it a lot, and I have a strong feeling that it was surprisingly effective. But there's a difference between prayer, religious ritual, and even kind of just visualization and manifestation. Difference between that and an established tradition of spell work and magic. And I don't mess around in that stuff because I don't understand it enough, and I don't know what's being called on. I don't know what's being asked of as far as a price. I don't know who is going to have to pay the price. It might not be me, it might be the people around me. That's why I don't mess around with spell work and these kinds of very potent and volatile rituals. Now, one thing that I did do that people might misunderstand to be spell work, as I've been watching these tarot readers, they talk about candle magic, which is, maybe the kind of thing that, witches would do or something like that. You light candles and you say certain things and maybe make certain offerings to certain deities or spirits or something like that. I don't know. I've never done it, but this is candle work, right? It's a type of spell work. I don't do any of that shit either. I don't want to mess with it, right? The stuff that I do is clean. I'm not trying to take from anyone. I'm just giving of my heart and my soul. I'm using some of the things that I learned in different visualization practices and even sort of bodily alignment structures and flows that you learn through things like Qigong. I just put it together in a way that makes sense to me and had surprising results when my father was sick. And before that with my mother. But when this woman I was dating came over, I got this, again, part of what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to open to my intuition, to the messages that the universe, again, I'm avoiding using the term God. I'm kind of coming to terms with that personification and whether I can connect with it face to face in that kind of way. But I have great respect for people that approach their worship that way. But I prefer to say existence or the universe. So I've been trying to learn to listen to the universe more. And I just got this strong message, this inspiration before the woman I was dating came over to pick up her stuff that I needed to do something. I needed to take an extra precaution because I didn't want to be drained. I didn't want to feel manipulated like I had felt before in the relationship. And this ritual just, it came to me. Boom, it hit me. I had to do it. So this is not candle magic. This here, let's see if I can show you. That right there that is a ritual of protection and reflection, asking Jesus Christ for a little help. It just came to me. It's not candle magic, but it was pretty potent and helped me stay where I needed to be when the woman that I had been dating for a long time came over, possibly to see me for the last time. We'll see. But I will explain what I did here, just in case you feel like you need some extra type of protection, some extra way to filter out negative intention, negative influences when you are interacting with someone in your space. This video has gone pretty long already, so I'm not going to explain in this video what I did, but I will make another video and tell you how to do this. Now, part of the tricky thing about any kind of ritual is one of the main ingredients, I'm sure in magic, but definitely in all ritual, is the person doing it, their experience, their potency, their understanding. So I can't guarantee that if you do what I did, it's going to have the same effect, but it might help. So in a future video, stay tuned, and I'll try to transmit to whoever is interested how to perform this ritual. Till then, first of all, face your fear, be brave, stand up for truth, and at some point, peace.